Close your eyes for a moment and imagine that everything you desire most is not far from you, but it's backing away every time you try to force its arrival. What if what you call action is actually a reflection of fear? What if your urgency to do, control, and resolve is exactly the signal that the quantum field reads as distrust? Maybe you're exhausted, trying to think positive, keep the vibration high, visualize at all costs. But the body, that silent oracle, still vibrates with the effort. It still carries the tension of someone who doesn't believe. You're still in survival mode, trying to earn what would already be yours if you just stop chasing it. This is the root of the paradox. In quantum reality, what you force escapes, and what you embody, but how to trust without becoming complacent, how to let go without giving up, how to desire without transforming desire into lack. That's what we're going to dive into now. Perhaps you are confusing intensity with power, believing that the more you think about your desire, the faster it will come. But in the quantum field, what matters is not the strength of intention, it's the vibrational quality behind it. And here comes a key forgotten by most teachings. Excessive effort is not a sign of focus, but of internal alarm. Let's look at your brain. When you crave something with anxious intensity, the body activates the fear circuit. The amygdala, the center of the brain that detects threats, sends warning signals. Cortisol rises, adrenaline takes over, the nervous system goes into a sympathetic fight-or-flight state. And in this state, what happens? You don't manifest, you survive. Creativity shuts down, intuition goes silent, your heart's electromagnetic field becomes dysregulated, and everything your energy vibrates is lack disguised as commitment. In the quantum field, this is noise. It is not a clear frequency of creation. It is a truncated, unstable, incoherent message. You can say, I trust, but if your body is in tension, the field reads, I fear. This is the blind spot of effort. You are trying to force the universe to deliver something that it only delivers when you become vibrationally compatible with it. And herein lies the paradox. The more you want, in the sense of I need this to be happy, but you send out the signal that it does not have. And the field, being an exact mirror, can only give you more of the same. But what if you let wanting become a state? What if you moved no longer to conquer, but because you are already the one who vibrates what you desire? This is the seed of true creation. There is a dangerous misconception spreading silently throughout the spiritual world, that to trust is to fold one's arms, expect miracles, and avoid any effort as if it were, in itself, a betrayal of faith. But trusting does not mean omitting, nor is it abandoning the direction of one's own life. Trusting is a deeply active, but invisible neurospiritual state. It is a silent force that arises from the coherence between what we think, what we feel, and what we live. What differentiates surrender from giving up is not the lack of action, it is the quality of action. Giving up comes from frustration, from exhaustion, from the tiredness of fighting. She is still trapped in the logic of control, only now she has surrendered. Surrender, on the other hand, is a leap of consciousness. It is not born of fear, but of trust. She doesn't run away, she falls in line. And here, spiritual science begins to draw the invisible contours of true trust. According to studies by Heart Math Institute, when the brain and heart enter a state of coherence, an ordered electromagnetic field is generated around the body. This field is measurable, intelligent, influential. The whole body comes into sync. Breathing becomes more rhythmic. Heart rate variability harmonizes. The mind falls silent effortlessly, as if the entire system understands that it is now safe to be, without fighting, without proving, without resisting. This coherence is not just a feeling of peace. It is an energetic signature that the quantum field recognizes instantly. It's as if, by aligning brain, heart, and intention, you emit a clean, clear, and magnetic frequency. You stop asking and start communicating. You stop wanting and start vibrating. And here's the key point. True confidence is physiological. It's not an idea. It's not a mantra. It is a state that the entire body recognizes, a state that disables survival mode and enables creation mode. Joe Dispenza addresses this when he explains that the analytical mind, the one that judges, compares, and fears, needs to be softened so that the unconscious, which operates 95% of our reality, can be reprogrammed. But this only happens when we leave mental hyperactivity and fall into the body, in the heart, not feeling. Trust, therefore, is not the absence of movement. It is an inspired action that springs from the center. It's doing what needs to be done without carrying the weight that everything depends on it. It's working without obsession, loving without attachment, meditating without rushing to evolve. When you are in this state of coherence, even silence becomes creative. You don't need to force doors. They open naturally because your presence is the key itself. This does not mean that challenges disappear. It means you don't get lost in them anymore. That even in the face of chaos, there is a core within you that remains whole, integrity, aligned, and this core sends a clear message to the universe. I am already the one who lives what I desire. And the field responds. But how to enter this state of coherence? How to get out of the mental cycle of doubt, fear, and over-effort? It starts in the body, in the breath, and pause. Close your eyes. Bring your attention to the center of your chest. Breathe as if you were breathing through your heart. And as the air comes in and out, feel a heightened emotion. It can be gratitude, love, admiration, compassion. Don't force it. Just choose to feel. This simple practice, if done with presence, begins to synchronize your heartbeat with your brain waves. And when that happens, you are no longer reacting to reality. You are creating from it. Real confidence, the kind that moves mountains without pushing a single stone, is born here. In the space between expectation and acceptance. In the delivery that is still going on. In the silence that still creates. And you, can you recognize the difference between giving up and trusting? Imagine a seed. You plant it, water it, take care of it. But every 5 minutes, you dig it up to see if it has sprouted yet. What happens? You interrupt the process. You freeze growth. You transform the natural flow of life into a laboratory of control. This is the central paradox of quantum Zeno effect. In quantum physics, this effect describes a curious phenomenon. The more you observe a quantum particle, the less it changes state. Simply observing it frequently stabilizes the system, preventing the transition that would normally occur. In other words, the observer's insistence on seeing the result blocks the result itself. Now, bring this into your emotional and vibrational life. Every time you visualize a wish, but then immediately rush to see if it has already come true. Every time you perform a ritual, but watch the signs anxiously. Every time you claim confidence, but have to check 1,000 times a day if it's working, you are observing too much. And behind this vigilance is fear, doubt. The unconscious attempt to guarantee the future, as if the simple act of looking could force the universe to move faster. But the quantum field does not respond to impatient eyes. He responds to coherent vibrations. The problem is not in looking. It's as if you look. It's in the look filled with anxious expectation, which resembles more that of a reality check than a confident co-creator. This implicit look of, has he come yet, sends a signal, it's not here yet. And the field, like a faithful mirror, continues to reflect absence. What was supposed to be a creative state turns into an anguished wakefulness. And reality, like the quantum particle in the experiment, freezes. Joe Dispenza once said that the observer creates reality. But what he really teaches is that it is the emotional quality of the observer that determines what kind of reality will collapse. If your gaze is filled with fear, haste, and pressure, you're not creating, you're getting stuck. It's like trying to boil water without allowing it to heat up. You light the fire and turn it off. You light it and check it. You shake the pan, you take off the lid. Heat does not accumulate. The boiling point never reaches. And here lies a profound key. Letting go of the controlling gaze is not neglect. It is vibrational wisdom. It means trusting that the seed is germinating even when you see no signs. It means resting in the invisible. And this is not easy for a mind conditioned to immediacy, to seeing is believing. But in quantum reality, it's just the opposite. You believe, and then you see. And this faith is not blind. It is felt. It is cultivated in the coherence between heart and mind, in the gentle repetition of an internal state that says, I know it's coming. I am the one already experiencing it. I don't need to watch. I just need to align myself. There is a moment on the path of creation when the greatest act of power is do nothing else. It is sustaining the vibration without demanding results. It's continuing to live as if it were already real. even without visible proof. And not because you gave up, but why did you become so whole that the demonstration stopped being an obsession and became a reflex? Life responds faster to those who stop asking and start being, because the being does not watch. It vibrates. You can repeat 1,000 times. It will work out. You can visualize, write, mentalize, but if your body doesn't believe it, nothing changes. Because the quantum field is not impressed by words. He feels vibration, and the body is the main emitter of this vibration. Here's a subtle but brutally honest truth. You can lie to the mind, but not to the body. The body knows. You know when you're saying, "I trust," but breathing like you're afraid. You know how you say, "I'm abundant," but you feel tension in your stomach every time you look at your bank statement. You know when you say, "I'm ready for love," but your chest is still closed, shielded, with no space to receive. This incoherence between what you think and what you vibrate creates energy sabotage, a noise in the field, like a radio trying to tune into two frequencies at the same time. The sound doesn't come through cleanly. And do you know what happens then? The universe responds to the dominant frequency. No to your statement, not to your wish, but to what your nervous system is actually emitting. Let's look at this in a more technical, but still deeply spiritual way. Your body is regulated by two main modes of the autonomic nervous system. The kind, fight or flight, which comes into action when there is threat, fear, insecurity, and the parasympathetic, rest and integration, which is activated when there is trust, security, and presence. When you're in anxious anticipation, checking signals, interpreting synchronicities as tests, compulsively seeking answers, your body is in sympathetic mode. This means that biologically, you are vibrating as one who fears, not as one who believes. And here's the tricky part. The mind can believe in sentences, but the body only believes in sensations. If there is no feeling of peace behind your desire, the field interprets not ready yet. If desire comes loaded with need, urgency, tightness, the answer will be, you are still in survival mode. And you might even think, but I want it so much. Is that wrong? No. The problem was never wanting. It is wanting from lack. When desire comes from the fear of not achieving it, it conveys insecurity. When it comes from the certainty that it is natural, inevitable, already yours, it transmits magnetism. This is the difference between anxious anticipation and frequency of certainty. Anxious expectation is restless, vigilant, and strategic. The frequency of certainty is silent, stable, embodied. Anxious expectation wants to manipulate time. The frequency of certainty inhabits the right time. And this difference is not mental. It is felt in the details, in the way you breathe, in the relaxation of your shoulders, the sparkle in your eyes when you talk about what you love, in the absence of haste. You may say, "I believe," but your body responds, "It doesn't seem like it." The cure? It is not to repeat anymore. It feels different. It's training the body to recognize safety where there was previously an alarm. It is to cultivate elevated emotions before the desire manifests itself. It is teaching the nervous system that it no longer needs to live in expectation, because you are already in the state of the one who received it. Joe Dispenza teaches, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. And what you are is a set of thoughts, yes, but mainly of recurring emotional states. So the way forward is not to promise the universe that you will trust. It's showing, through your body, that you already trust. This is done with simple but consistent practices. Breathe slowly until your body understands that it is safe. Cultivate gratitude before any achievement. Embrace anxiety without merging with it. Evoke the feeling of "it's already mine" before external evidence. Because the truth is this, you only create what your body recognizes as real. And then comes the question that can open portals. What has your body believed more than your words? We live in a culture that glorifies doing. Productivity has become an altar, constant movement, an elegant disguise for the fear of stopping. But what if this urge to do something all the time is not a virtue? And if she is in fact a sophisticated form of emotional control? It's hard to recognize, but there's a silent compulsion behind many proactive actions. The compulsion not to feel, of not being faced with emptiness, of not considering the fear of not being enough without effort as an excuse. You wake up and you're already running, Create goals, write lists, take courses, meditate as if you were completing tasks. Not because it is in flux, but because if you stop, you might realize you still don't trust, and then you prefer to do it. Do more. Do everything. This doing too much is the vibrational disguise of unresolved insecurity. It's like a child trying to get his parents' attention. Look what I did, now do you see me? But now the child has grown up, and who she wants to impress is the quantum field, or God, or life, or the other, or herself. But the universe does not respond to the amount of effort, responds to quality of the internal state from which this effort arises. And here's the crucial difference. Inspired action is born from alignment. Compulsive action is born of anxiety. The first is fluid, light, and magnetic. The second is tense, repetitive, draining. In practice, this means that simply doing something useful does not guarantee that you are co-creating. Because if you're acting to plug an emotional hole, the field feels it, the hole, not the action. The truth is uncomfortable. Sometimes overaction is an escape from vulnerability. It's easier to plan, post, study, organize, respond, run, than to remain silent and feel the pain of still not feeling worthy. And until you face this point, the vibrational source of your urgency, you will continue to deserve that which only comes when you realize that you are already worthy. This is the paradox. The more you try to prove you deserve it, but it vibrates the opposite. But it sends the message to the field that it still needs to do something to be valuable. And the universe, which responds to your vibration, not your agenda, returns the corresponding reality. Joe Dispenza teaches that emotional states must precede desired reality. You need to feel at peace before resolution. You need to vibrate abundance before the money arrives. You need to vibrate love before the meeting. But how do you do that if you're always too busy? This is where the most radical invitation comes in. To stop. Not at all, but to do it out of fear. And that's not easy, because stopping brings discomfort. Silence shows what you've been trying to hide with productivity. The absence of goals exposes the absence of self, but it is also there that the possibility of true transformation arises. Stop for a moment now, close your eyes. Observe what emerges. Anxiety, emptiness, guilt, tension. This is the place that needs to be felt, not fixed. Because once felt, it begins to dissolve. And when it dissolves, doing ceases to be an escape and becomes an extension of your essence. Then you act with power, no longer to conquer something, but as a natural manifestation of someone who is already whole, and that changes everything. You become selective. It does less, but what it does vibrates more. Because now your action is not born of urgency, but of trust. Have you ever been next to someone who didn't need to say a word, but whose presence made everything around them go silent? Perhaps this person was not the most eloquent, not even the most extroverted, but it carried something rare, silent conviction. This form of confidence doesn't scream, she vibrates. It does not require validation. It emits certainty. And the most fascinating thing is that this vibration isn't mystical. It's neuroscientific. Studies show that when someone deeply believes something about themselves, without the need to prove it to the world, the brain responds with a different neurological pattern. This is called the Galatea effect, an extension of the better-known Pygmalion effect. While the Pygmalion effect shows that others' beliefs about us can influence our behavior, the Galatea effect reveals something even more powerful. Our own internal beliefs shape not only our actions, but how the world responds to us. In other words, when you truly and silently believe that you are abundant, worthy, ready, your brain organizes your behaviors to confirm this truth. Your body starts to move differently. Your language changes. Your posture communicates effortlessly. And the quantum field responds to the coherence of that presence. It is self-confidence that does not depend on performance. It is a vibration that arises from the integration between identity, emotion, and physiology. You don't need to convince yourself every time. It is already who he believes himself to be. And that's why the world starts treating him as such. This silent conviction creates a field around you, not visible but perceptible. People feel. Life feels. You become less impressionable, less reactive, less dependent on external approval. And here's the key. This confidence is not arrogance. It's not hard. It does not impose. She occupies. The difference is in the internal state. the arrogant vibrations in defense. He needs to prove something because deep down, he still doubts. He screams because in silence he trembles. But the convict, he knows, not intellectually, but bodily, neurologically, energetically. And the most interesting thing, the brain, faced with this embodied belief, begins to release neurotransmitters such as dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin, which support states of trust, openness, and presence. In other words, biochemistry itself aligns to support this new I. You start making different choices, reacting in a more focused way. Don't get disorganized by rejections or delays, because you're no longer operating from the surface, you're anchored. And this anchoring, silent and deep, has a magnetic effect. She attracts realities consistent with her internal state, because you're not trying to manifest anymore. You became the demonstration. And here's the most liberating point. You don't need to convince anyone, not even to you. You just need to allow your silent vibration to say to the universe, I already am that. And this sentence, when true, reorganizes the matter. But how to cultivate this conviction, not with empty repetitions, but with internal micro-evidence, with small commitments that you fulfill with yourself, with moments of silence where you feel, without noise, who you really are, with decisions based on integrity, not fear. Every time you act in alignment with who you want to be, something within you solidifies. And little by little, trust ceases to be a goal, and it becomes your base state. The question is not, how will the world see me? The question is, who do I decide to be even without applause? Because when you vibrate certainty, the universe listens before you even speak. There are times in life when everything seems to stop. You do what you're told. Visualize, affirm, pray, fight, strive. But nothing moves. And then, exhausted, you let go. And what seemed distant arrives. Not because you gave up, but because for the first time, you stopped blocking the flow. This is not just a spiritual theory. It is a reality experienced by thousands of people in such different ways and at the same time so similar in essence. External reality reconfigures itself when the internal field changes. When you stop chasing, you get off the frequency of the search and enter the frequency of presence. And it is only in presence that reality manifests itself in a stable way. It's like turning off the background noise on a radio. Only then do you hear the melody clearly. And here's the question that could change everything. If you stopped running, what would you finally feel? We live in a world that rewards control. From an early age, we learn that those who plan more, try harder, anticipate more, win. But what if the true creative power isn't in the more? What if it pops up just as you let go? This idea seems counterintuitive until you try it. There are times in life when you stop and everything starts to move. Why does this happen? Because there's a creative intelligence that only activates in the absence of excessive effort, a kind of genius that is not born from thinking, but from allowing. And it only blooms in states of relaxed presence, not in productive tension. Let's look at this in light of neuroscience. When the body is in a state of alert, dominated by cortisol and adrenaline, the mind goes into survival mode, narrow logic, linear thinking, problem-focused. It's useful for escaping danger, but terrible for creating new realities. On the other hand, when you enter a state of surrender, acceptance, and presence, the brain activates circuits associated with creativity, insight, and innovation. The levels of dopamine and oxytocin increase, and with them, a sense of openness, flow, and clarity. This is the state known as flow, described by Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi as the moment when time disappears and action merges with being. But flow cannot be forced. It only arrives when you release mind control and enter the body, when you stop trying to get it right and start living from the inside out. And this is more spiritual than it sounds. In the quantum field, manifestation responds to the state of coherence, not to the volume of effort. When you let go, the field understands, now he trusts me. And trust is the most magnetic invitation the universe can receive, because those who trust open up. And whoever opens up, allows. And whoever allows, aligns with the greater intelligence of creation. But be careful. Letting go is not giving up. It's not abandonment. It is not about being absent from your own journey. It is an exchange of strength for fluidity. It's about staying present, but without tension. It's acting with intention, but without pressure. It's like an artist who paints not to prove a point, but because he feels at home on the canvas. Or like a mother who sings her child to sleep, not because she wants to control sleep, but because love overflows. The moments you let go, you stop using your mind as a tool of manipulation, and she becomes a channel of inspiration again. Think about when you had your best ideas. It was probably in the shower, on a walk, before bed, the times when you weren't trying. This is no coincidence. It's spiritual biology. The release state activates the brain default mode, neural network responsible for creativity, associative memory, and symbolic imagination. It is in this space that the quantum field can reach you with new possibilities. Therefore, moments of letting go are not a waste of time. They are portals. The problem is that we have been conditioned to distrust the pause, to distrust what is not done, confusing surrender with weakness. But in the energetic world, those who release are those who create the most. Because letting go is aligning yourself with the rhythm of the universe. And the universe does not run. It pulses, it dances, it waits. There is a type of tiredness that does not come from the body. It's a vibrational fatigue, the exhaustion of trying to be something that you don't yet believe you are. And the further away you feel from what you want, the more you try. But run after it. But act, pray, visualize, ask, study, repeat. But deep down, and the misalignment of vibrational identity who is screaming. You try to prove it, try to make up for it, try to forget that inside you still don't feel whole. This is the addiction to chronic effort, an effort not for the result, but for the provisional feeling of merit. But there's something important here. Every excessive attempt reveals an identity that is not yet integrated. You try to manifest wealth, but energetically, you still vibrate scarcity. He tries to attract love, but he still carries abandonment as an emotional reference. He tries to heal the body, but he still identifies with pain as part of his belonging. And that is exactly why the quantum field does not respond. Not because you are denying your desire, but because it is reflecting what you are really being. And herein lies one of the greatest paradoxes of vibrational spirituality. You don't have to try to be who you already are. But if you're still trying, it's because did not recognize himself. This is not guilt. It's an invitation, a call to stop building outside what can only be recognized within. Joe Dispenza teaches, you only manifest the reality that corresponds to the identity that your body knows. This means there is no point in trying to change the world if you still see yourself as someone struggling to change. You need to change who you are being while trying. But how can we change something as subtle as energetic identity? It starts in the body, in the breath, in the micro-perception of what you are carrying as I am. Am I always the one who needs chasing? Am I the one who still needs convincing? Am I the one who doesn't get paid easily? If these phrases resonate, they are vibrating, and the universe is listening. Real change begins when you release the identity of the lack. I don't want it, but the version of you that lives for him, and it hurts. Because no matter how limiting an identity is, it offers something, emotional security. The addiction to trying gives you something to do. It gives the illusion that you are on the path. But many times, it takes you away from him. To break this cycle, you need to allow yourself to be now. Not in theory, but in the energy field. This means sitting in silence and feeling like you've had enough. Wake up and dress like someone who already lives what they want. Stop telling the old story of scarcity, even if it is real. Breathe like someone who already trusts. The new identity doesn't come like a bolt of lightning. She is trained. It is repeated on the body until it becomes the base. It is sustained even when everything outside still shows the old. And here's the final key. When you embody this new frequency of identity, the trying disappears. Not for accommodation, but why have you become compatible? And what is compatible comes. Confidence for many is still just a feeling, something you feel every now and then when circumstances allow. But for the great masters of co-creation of reality like Neville Goddard and Joe Dispenza, confidence is not a feeling. It's technology, an invisible but measurable technology. Subtle, yet highly functional. A bridge between the invisible and the visible, between what is still in the form of potential and what manifests. Goddard Dizia, assume the feeling of the wish being fulfilled. And that wasn't poetry. It was vibrational physics. For him, imagination was not a daydream, but the direct channel between the internal state and external reality. When you imagine yourself already living what you want, not as an escape, but as embodied vibrational identity, you shift your consciousness to a new line of reality. And the very moment you do it with conviction, the field begins to reorganize matter around its frequency. Joe Dispenza translates this into neuroscientific language. He claims that the brain does not distinguish between a real experience and a vividly imagined one, and that by repeating a heightened emotional state linked to a coherent mental image, you literally reprogram su sistema nervoso. This is the essence of trust as an internal technology. It is the conscious repetition of a state of being until the body recognizes it as the new I am. But be careful, it's not enough to just think. It is necessary to feel with the whole body, and that requires presence, consistency, and detachment. Because true creative imagination is not anxious fantasy, it's a deep vibrational testing. You don't imagine escaping reality. You imagine planting the new reality in the fertile soil of your identity. It's like you're tuning into an internal radio. The clearer the frequency, the cleaner the transmission. And reality, like a song that has always been in the air, is finally heard. But how can we apply this in practice, in an accessible way? Let's try a short exercise. Today before bed, we'll work on a cardiac coherence. Breathe deeply, bringing your focus to the center of your chest. Inhale for 5 seconds, exhale for 5 seconds. As you breathe, evoke a heightened emotion, love, gratitude, admiration. Maintain this state for at least 3 minutes. This creates a coherent electromagnetic field around your body, a clear signal that the quantum field can read and respond to. These practices are not magic. They are precise vibrational recalibration tools, and most importantly, you don't do them to manifest. You make them to become compatible with what is already yours by vibrational right. When you activate this trust technology, something changes. You no longer walk around asking. You walk loading. And the world recognizes this. People notice. Opportunities arise. Previously blocked paths open up. Not because you fought harder, but why you aligned more deeply with who he already was, but had forgotten. That's the trust it creates, the confidence that vibrates before seeing, that feels before touching, who lives before arriving. And perhaps now, after all this journey, there is only one final question left. If you were already the version of yourself that lives everything you want, how would you breathe now?